Hey everybody, this is Kevin Purcell with the Theotek podcast this morning, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Apple and what they discussed at their WWDC event earlier this week and how that applies to working with ministry. It's interesting that our two Apple fanboys aren't here today to talk about that. Wes and Rick are both off busy working for the CIA this morning, and so they're not going to be able to join us. But we do have, of course, our regular Antoine is with us. Antoine, good morning. Good to see you.
Morning.
And then, of course, you all know LaRosa, a repeat offender here at Theotek, comes back often. And when he found out that Wes and Rick couldn't join us and we were going to talk a little bit of Apple, he said, I can come. So we're glad that he's here, has a little bit of free time with us today. He was just discussing, their Olive Tree's Android release, which came out just recently. How's that going? Is it being received well?
It's being received really well. It's been a mixed bag as far as reviews go. I mean, you have some people that just absolutely hate change, and so we've got those people that are leaving negative reviews, but then we've got people that have been leaving some really good reviews. Even those that have had trouble, they've given us like a 2 or 3 star rating, then they actually get the help that they want and get back up and running. Then after that, they love it, so and change the review back to 4 or 5 stars. It's been really
I
good.
honestly cannot imagine how someone who has used the program over the last couple of years would be upset about this update.
Well, part of it is there are just some people that are using really old devices.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's that's what it is. So it's the new stuff doesn't work well on the old. I'm showing you my article at kevinpurcell.org, which was, I would say, 4/5 positive, 1/5 let's see. That would maybe be the way I would describe it. Just because of 2 years of letting it languish, I'm still okay. Is this going to be a continuous, a new thing? But you've promised me that it is, and so I'll take your word. I trust you.
Look, if it's not, then I'll be looking for work elsewhere.
Okay, good. All right. Well, no, that's not good, but I mean, good that you guys are serious about making it work. Well, like I said, we wanted to talk a little bit about WWDC and what they're talked about this week. This is Apple's annual developers conference. Happens every year, sort of at the beginning of June, and they always show off the new versions of Apple OS 10 and also iOS, and they did that again this year. And over at the website that I write for, Gotta Be Mobile, our editor did a real nice walkthrough of what's the difference between iOS 9 and iOS 8. And since Antoine is here and he's our mobile guy, so maybe we'll focus on the mobile first. Although I think that the El Capitan, if you can get it installed properly, is the more exciting of the two, to be quite honest. I think they're both really just kind of maintenance and under the hood updates, don't you think, guys?
Yeah, for the most part, that's all they really are just hood updates. There's not a lot of new, if you will, that's happening. There's more polish happening, and it's not a bad thing from Apple's side. They've had some pretty notable snafus, and both the previous version of OS 10 as well as iOS 8. So getting some of that core stuff cleaned up. I think the biggest thing is really for the mobile side is going to be the fact that the OS doesn't take up so much space. I mean, they got it down almost 2/3 of the installable space that is going to be needed for the next version. That's incredible. That's going to make a big difference in terms of not just what people are able to save on their devices, but just for the length of time that folks are having this device. It's going to make a pretty significant difference for them. And then they're supporting all the way down to the 4S and second iPad with it. I mean, gosh, you can't if you're whether you're an Apple fan or not, you got to actually be pretty impressed that they're supporting 4 generations of iPads and 7, 8 generations of iPhones. That's pretty notable, pretty neat.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the smaller download to install. my wife has a 16 gigabyte iPad that was supplied to her by the school she teaches for, and she couldn't install she couldn't install iOS 8 for a long time because she had so many apps on it that she wasn't willing to reinstall, and she didn't have enough space because of all the apps that she needed for her classroom, and they only gave her a 16 gig, and so, but she has enough space that she'll be able to go to iOS 9. Unfortunately, she had a problem with her iPad, and they had to, wipe it and start over, and so that put iOS 8 on it for her. But still, I think that's a big deal. We're looking at some of a slideshow of some of these things. The new home screen with a slightly different look, slightly different look to Siri. They say it's more accurate, although I haven't really tested that yet. I am running the beta version on my iPad. And then they talk about Spotlight Search in both iOS and Mac OS. LaRosa, have you had a chance yet to look at this or play with the beta at all at Olive Tree?
Haven't had a chance to play with it yet, but just from my perspective, it's nice to see that both Google and Apple are getting to a point where the platform is maturing, so we're not seeing a whole lot of new whiz-bang features, but it's more to a point where it's just polish, which is where I think we really need to be. Mobile is getting to a more mature place, which is good for everybody.
Yeah, we talked about this feature that I'm highlighted right here, and that is the search tools allow developers to build in support for searches that go deep into the apps. And, of course, most Bible software already has search built into it, and so I'm not sure that they would necessarily be all that excited about using this. Google's process seems to say we're going to do that by default, whereas Apple says no, the developer has to turn it on. Am I right about that?
Yeah, pretty much. But at the same time, they're both essentially the same dive down feature. If you have the application on your device, you should be able to search within it. There's a limited ability to do that on iOS right now. I know Evernote exposes that in Spotlight and a few other applications. But to see something like that where you don't necessarily have to be in the app to search for something that's in the app, that makes a lot of good sense. And I don't actually see why a Bible software company wouldn't want that. If I'm in my email and I want to go in and search, and have Spotlight search in Olive Tree to see what's going on, I should be able to search for a specific scripture or for a specific note I left in there without completely leaving the app that I'm in order to go ahead and do that search.
Yeah, and it makes total sense, because why have a Google result come up and go to a website when you have the app already installed on your phone?
Yeah, especially if you're in a limited bandwidth situation.
Mm-hmm.
Here we've got iOS 9 smarter phone features. I haven't really looked that closely at what this is talking about, but and then there's just a bunch of things here. The wallet versus passbook is actually kind of funny if you're an Android fan, because that Google just retired the term wallet, and so it's almost as if Apple said, "Oh, well, thank you, we'll take that."
Well, Google Wallet's still around.
Yeah, but the title or the name wallet they're gonna get rid. They're phasing it out over time.
Yeah, it's now Apple Pay now. Google Pay, Android Pay.
Yeah, the wallet app is still there, and it will be for probably another year or two.
Easily, yeah. Yeah, they've rebranded it. During Google I/O, there was a few shots of the new look and feel for it. That change in particular is actually pretty neat for both Apple and Google. I think what it's going to force a few churches to do is think a little bit harder, not necessarily about online giving, but mobile giving. Do I have a kiosk with a Square reader or a paid receipt reader where I can just walk up, tap my phone, and go ahead and do that mobile gift, rather than some churches are doing the standing kiosk in the foyer, or even taking credit debit cards during the time of offering. I think that even with transaction fees being what they are, I think that's going to be a very attractive solution for a lot of folks, especially as we're seeing a lot of folks on consumer side really get away from carrying a lot of spare change or not using online banking.
Yeah, I'm that person where I don't carry checks with me. I don't carry cash. And so when I started using Givelify for the little bit that I did, Like my church kind of looked at me weird. It's like, what is this, and why are you doing it, and why aren't we getting like the full? Why is there this percentage coming off the top that we aren't getting? Can you find another option so we can get the full amount?
Yeah, that was the whole Givelify thing. That I don't want to get into that because that frustrates me that they quit doing the the mail-in payments, and they really put the screws on trying hard to get me to go to add my church, and it just isn't going to happen right now. Notes. What do you think of the new notes in iOS 9?
Smart, smart update. About time that the default app got a little bit of love. I used to think nobody used it, and then I met my girlfriend and all her friends, and everybody it seems to use that dang ugly-looking Notes app. So I think a lot of folks are gonna find that the enhancements in there, especially being able to add a drawing and add a picture in there, that's really going to come in handy. I do think it's going to cause the Evernotes and Notepad Pluses of the world to step up their game, and I do wonder how Bible software companies are going to react to the Notes being a better text entry system than whatever they're including in their apps.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I would say it's a long way from being better. It's I honestly just opened it up for the first time this morning and played with it, and I would not take a lot of notes on this. I know the drawing features are more for drawing than note taking, but that was my first thought was, oh, well, maybe if it has really great note taking features, I would love to use it. But I'm sitting here. I'm not really supposed to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's got very rudimentary drawing. Of course, I just scribbled on the screen just to see how easy the stuff is. And I was trying to get Reflector working. I've had a problem with my Mac Mini here, and so I don't have everything reinstalled yet. And Reflector got installed this morning, but it's not working right now for some reason, and I don't feel like troubleshooting while we're on there. But anyway, it's my thing is with a Note app, I've got to have that zoom in feature like you get in Notability, where I'm actually writing at the bottom of the screen, but it's entering it at the entry point wherever it is on the page. And if you don't have that, I'm not using your app. So, but if you want to take notes and draw with it, that can be a cool thing. And then when you hit the done right there, it'll go on page, and I guess now I could type on this maybe. No, I guess not. Once it becomes a drawing note, it's a drawing note.
Let's see. I mean, it's simple. It's not necessarily meant for us folks who are a little bit more in depth than our notes, I'm sure. But
what I found more funny about it was the fact that they spent so much time on it.
Well, I wonder if it hinted something like stylus support coming pretty soon for iPhone and iPad, where they have native stylus.
What do you think about that? Is there something coming, LaRosa, in the fall that we might take more advantage of something like this?
I don't know, but honestly, if Apple comes out with something that's similar to my Note 4, I honestly would probably switch to an iPhone at that point.
Yeah, there's the rumor that there's going to be an iPad Pro, a 12-something inch device, and if that happens, I actually would find that very appealing.
Yuck.
What do you think?
Yuck.
What's yuck about it?
Gosh, yuck. 10 inches is all most folks need, 9.7 or 10.1, pick your distinction. But I don't see. I mean, I see in vertical applications and some logistic companies I've worked around where having that larger tablet screen will definitely work, and especially if you're going to be docked all day using it. But man, I don't like the idea, and the OS does not really scale well past that 10-inch frame of reference, even with this new overlay screen thing they're doing. I don't see it as a great idea,
Well, how do you explain the popularity of the Microsoft Surface Pro 3?
The popularity of a device that's sold maybe 6 million devices to the 10 million per month that an iPad sells. I don't see it as all that popular. I see folks liking it. Don't get me wrong. I think Surface is a really, really well done tablet, but I don't see folks falling hand over fist for it. And even in enterprises, where I would think I do, a lot of the consulting with a lot of groups, a lot of IT groups that have to provision thousands of computers for folks, and all the IT folks love their Surfaces at home, but there's nobody that's going to sign off on putting that in the workplace. They're either afraid of touching the screen, or afraid of folks leaving stuff in the cab, or leaving stuff at work, or even worse, they just don't want to deal with the support issues. It's the take up for the Surface is not really there, and I don't see that changing, if it were bigger, and I certainly don't see it changing for the iPad if that comes out with a bigger size. I don't think a bigger size is really what it needs. It needs a user interface that better fits the two-handed stylus plus type function that it uses. It's finger okay right now, but things like using Force Touch, those are the kind of enhancements that I think would be better for the iPad rather than a bigger size.
Well, being a Surface Pro 3 owner, I can't disagree with you more. I think that interface is outstanding for the right kind of person. And to be honest,
I think Surface interface is. I should say that the Surface interface is
losing a lot. I think they're losing a lot, and the Surface 3 sales are not what maybe Microsoft thought it was, but the Surface Pro 3 tablet. I don't know where you get your 6 million from. I don't know the exact numbers, but I believe it's doing a whole lot better than that.
And the difference, too, is we're talking a mobile OS versus a full-fledged desktop operating system in a mobile format. I mean, do you really want your iOS blown up to something that's like 12, 13 inches?
Yeah, because my thing right now about taking my iPad on the road as a laptop replacement is it's too small. And a 12-inch screen that's still fairly light, which I have a feeling they'll make it even lighter than the Surface 3 or Surface Pro 3, that I could hook up a keyboard to, but also hold in my hand and take notes in a meeting, and then sit on a lectern to use to take notes. That could potentially replace an awful lot of devices. Now, I'm strange in that I own more than I should, but I could see myself. I know if they come out with a Surface Pro, an iPad Pro that is decently priced, if it's like the typical what you expect of Apple, and that it's $1,700 for something that's priced twice as much as it really ought to be, then I'm not going to be interested. But if they price it comparatively to the iPad, for example, the iPad Mini is $400, the iPad is $500. If the iPad Pro is $600 or $700, with a pressure-sensitive stylus, with that Force Touch, with a 12-point whatever screen, and then a nice keyboard that accessorizes it, that you can integrate it with it really easily, like the Surface Pro 3. I'm in. I'm buying one. Without even ever using it, I'll get one. Because I know what the iPad is, and I know what the Surface Pro 3 is, and those two things combined would be a beautiful thing, in my opinion.
Had you used the Samsung Tab 12?
I wanted one, but it was too expensive. And then I finally got the Surface Pro 3, and I no longer wanted one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I had a Note 10, and you said the Tab 12. Do you mean the Note 12?
Note 12, sorry.
Yeah, I wanted one very much, but like when they first came out, they were what $899, I think it was.
Yeah.
And that was with 32 gigabytes of storage, and to be honest with you, at the time that it came out, Bible software on Android stunk, and so I just wasn't going to waste my money when I really couldn't use what I really wanted to use it as. So, but I did have a Note 10 for a long time before I got the Surface. When I got the Surface Pro 3, I just sold my Note 10 because it became, the end-all be-all as far as my mobile computing solution. And of course, then I got the Surface 3. Well, let's get back on track just a little bit. That note feature, I think it'd be good, and maybe they'll add to it, and it'll get better. And Apple Maps. Do either of you own an iPhone right now?
iPhone? No. iPad? Sure.
You have an iPad. Do you ever use Maps on your iPad?
Yeah, fairly often actually.
Apple Maps, or do you install Google Maps?
Yeah, fairly often.
Which one is it? Apple Maps?
It's Apple Maps.
Okay.
Excuse me. The transit stuff, I can care less about. There's no transit system in Charlotte to care about that. When I go back to DC, or if I go to Philly and I want to go ahead and use transit, then maybe I'll look into that portion. That's where there's enough of a transit system that really matters. The sticky point, I guess, with Maps is just that idea that they now have a transit system, or at least they're supporting transit maps and directions for that. If it's something that definitely fits an iPhone utilization a little bit more than it would an iPad in my case. But if you're not in a pretty major metropolis with a pretty decent public transport system, there's a fairly decent chance that your public transportation system won't be supported first out the gate. So it's kind of difficult to make that a high bullet point feature when it's only going to fit a certain group of folks.
Yeah, I think they're hitting the right cities. The biggest cities will use it, and then maybe it'll expand from there. But again, I don't find that all that exciting. LaRosa, anything you want to share about that, or?
No, not really.
Okay, we can move on. The news app isn't out. Looks cool. It's glad that Apple discovered Flipboard. I'll tell you, here's one thing that is awesome, and that is this new keyboard. If the only thing they did was make it so that they're lowercase letters until you hit the shift, I'd be happy, and that's all I would need, and I would have danced for joy over that one issue. Because for the life of me, I couldn't understand why they kept it always uppercase letters when you're entering lowercase letters. Was that a nitpicking?
It probably had to do a little with visibility.
Well, whatever it was stupid, and I'm glad they fixed it finally.
No, well, with a higher resolution screen, you can make lowercase letters, that are sharper, that stand out. They look like lowercase letters. It makes sense.
I had 720p Android phones that it looked just fine to me.
Well, fonts are different on Android, though. Remember? So
what's that?
Fonts are different on Android.
Yeah, now you're really drabbing to try to defend Apple here for totally.
No, that's not defense. Kev, that's just the way the systems are built. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they're changing to that San Francisco font.
Yeah, you stick with that, pal. There's no excuse for leaving it that way, and I'm glad they fixed it. That's anything else about the?
Well, I do. I'm interested. And it makes sense. You got companies like Logos or Faithlife now that have a publishing arm, groups at Olive Tree and Logos and Accordance who do more than just Bibles. I wonder if they're going to take advantage of that new news app and create publications, or at least create outlets into publications they already sell through that news app. If sell, or at least make available in some kind of chew a little bit for free and get the whole meal by going into our app kind of feature. Christian Computing Magazine, I could see that being right inside of that news app. It's an avenue. It's not a great avenue. It's a locked up avenue, but it's a pretty decent avenue that I wonder if publishers and their partners are going to take advantage of.
What do you think, LaRosa?
Don't really have too many thoughts on that.
Okay.
I mean, it's nice to see the keyboard updates, but as far as news goes, if they make it difficult to import an RSS feed that I already have going with something else like Feedly, then it's kind of useless to me per se.
Yeah, I think it's like too little, too late. Maybe is the way I would describe it. But we'll see. I mean, you can't use it now. I actually tried to get the beta on my iPad, and there's no way to do it right now, I don't think. If I'm wrong about that, I hope someone will let me know. But let's see here. I think we also have new settings. Again, I haven't looked at these very close. I think we'll just kind of skip over that. The multitasking is pretty cool. Unfortunately, it's somewhat iPad ready. I'll show you what it looks like here. Again, I wish I had been able to get... you can tell I'm running a beta, right? But what it does is here's the implementation that you'll get on an iPad Air 2, where you can get this side by side, which again, that's something that on an iPad, a 10-inch iPad, it might be useful. On a 12-inch iPad, it'll be wonderful because of the much larger screen real estate that you have.
Yeah, that's something I was actually really interested in seeing, because I remember the video I did last year for Olive Tree, going through and doing the advanced Bible study. And one of the things I did was told people to take their notes in Evernote, and having to switch back and forth between the apps. Something like a split screen will make this a whole lot easier for users and for preachers if they want to have a Bible up and not necessarily lose their notes.
Yeah, so what you do is if you're using, let's say I'm in Olive, this is what it'll look like on anything older than an iPad Air 2. Is you're in, let's say you're in Olive Tree, you just slide in from the side, and the most recent app will be open automatically, but then you pull down, and so let's say I wanted to pull up Safari to do some interesting research or something online. So that's what it would look like there. But if I wanted to go to Notes and actually write, once Pages supports this, or whatever your favorite iPad word processor is, once it supports it, you can use that. Apps have to have this built in. They don't just automatically work like that. So we'll see. Again, this is something you'll have to have a newer iPad, because the iPad Air 2 has enough processing power and video display power to do this. The old ones don't have quite as much. In order to get that, where they're talking about the, let's go back here and I'll show you what this looks like. See where, you'll be able to grab this line here and move it left and right. It's basically Snap. If anybody's used the Snap feature in Windows 10, it's essentially that. Or if you've used a Note 4 or a Note 8 or a Note 10 from Samsung, then it's similar to that. And this is, I think, this is the most exciting thing with a bigger iPad that I heard out of WWDC, aside from the smaller footprint of the operating system updates.
I said it's a good feature, but the way that you get there still, it's not polished enough. If you think about current multitasking with iOS, it's double tap to home screen or 3-finger swipe left or right. Right now that gesture that you did, that there's a little too much learning. I've got to remember to do this, then do that before you can go to that overlay screen. So I think that in some way, shape, or form, before iOS 9 is final, that Apple might want to polish that a good bit.
Yeah, no one's come up with a good way to do this, have they? Is there anyone who does it really well, except maybe on a desktop with a mouse?
Yeah, Yola does a really good job of it with the Sailfish OS. The Sailfish OS, another operating system, but they have this. Their whole entire OS is designed on this concept of gestures, and depending on where you begin your gesture, on the top, bottom, left, right, middle of the screen, middle, bottom, middle, left, middle, right, you're interacting and getting around the entire device. And that's that kind of spatial orientation. While it's difficult to learn because it's not normal, it's not something other OSs do, it supports this idea of going multi-screen or multitasking, if you will, bringing up another screen in a way that's a little bit more fluid, that becomes a little bit more natural than I think I do this and then I got to tap a button or tap onto another part of the screen to continue the action.
Is this what you're talking about? I just did a search.
Yola? Yeah.
Okay. I've never heard of this. This is an operating system?
You got it.
For what?
For what? No, that is their own. They're their own platform. The folks that
if I wanted to run Yola, how would I do it?
You can download the RPM for it from sailfish.org, and you can currently flash it onto a Nexus 5.
Selfish, like as in you're not very nice, you're very selfish?
No, Sail, Sail, Fish, like the fish.
Okay. Well, that maybe it wasn't. What we were looking at wasn't what you were talking about. Sailfish.org. Yep, don't think so.
Sailfishos.org.
Oh, okay. Again, this is something you're
I'll end up having that tablet in a month or two, and I'll let that be a topic.
Sailfish OS?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is web page not available. Anyway, this is probably very exciting for people to to watch. Okay, this is where we're going. I don't know. I must have. Oh, okay. I was spelling it SALE. That's why it wasn't coming up. All right.
Yeah, but and I mean that's a little bit longer conversation that almost probably takes us off topic a little more. But this idea of gestures or at least new functionality should be, I think when you guys are preaching your message, you talk when you're telling people to do a behavior or refine or repent to your behavior, you give them the steps that they can do. You try not to give them too many steps or try to make something that's really complicated. Repent and turn from your wicked ways. You don't say, okay, stop what you're doing, turn to the left, think about what God would have you do, turn to your right, think about what God have you to do, now walk the other direction. You don't instruct it in that way, and that's kind of how this overlay feature is implemented right now. It's too many steps to get there. It needs to be simplified. And so Sailfish is one of the many platforms one of the few platforms that try to solve this. WebOS was another one that tried to solve this somewhat elegantly. BlackBerry OS does that with their communication stream, and so.
So what devices?
Apple has a little bit of work to do.
Well, let's move on. Battery life is a thing that they're promising, and we'll see. Again, that's not something I haven't noticed. I haven't used it enough on my iPad to know whether it's helping as far as battery life, and it's still a beta, so I wouldn't judge it at this point.
Yeah, battery life is one of those things where, yes, it's great if you can improve standby battery time, but I need you to improve battery life while my screen is on and I'm actively using the thing.
Yeah, because a lot of these, like I know Android Lollipop, the most recent version that's supposed to come out, Android M, they're talking about how it's going to start sipping battery when the screen is off, so it'll last a lot longer, which is a great thing because Android battery life has notoriously been bad compared to iOS. But, like you said, it's not on-screen battery life. That needs to be fixed as well. The health app, that's something you guys are into, the fitness stuff. Is that interesting to either of you?
Nope.
Okay. I don't want to track my menstruation or my sexual activity with my phone no matter what.
Oh, now, actually, that part was actually kind of cool. And I can understand why every guy can care less. But apparently, bringing this,
but
yeah, well, no, but you bring it up to your girlfriend or your wife or your daughters, and you say, hey, listen, Apple has a way for you to privately track your physiology, And this is something that you can say, okay, why would I want to do that? And you say, well, this is what you take to your OBGYN, and you say, this is what I've looked like over time. And just like with any other measurements we do over time that we can take back to a doctor or a specialist and say, hey, I was doing really, really good, and then all of a sudden I fell off, and then I got injured. What's going on? That body of information is pretty helpful. For ladies, this is it's a dang near gold mine, especially when it comes to catching things like breast cancer, uterine cancer, understanding pregnancy frequency, all that good fun stuff. So that part is actually pretty cool. But
yeah, I hope no one reads what I said in a sexist way, like, oh, I'm a man, I could care less about this. I don't see my wife being at all interested in tracking her menstruation on her phone, but what you're talking about there makes more sense now that I think about it. So, how about this? Switching from Android to iPhone, is that
smart?
Yeah, I think any way you can make it seamless and put up less friction to make something like that happen, that's a positive for whichever platform it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but when not WWDC, but during the quarterly Apple's quarterly call, they were giving some really interesting numbers about how many folks had switched over to iPhone or acquired a new iPhone in the last quarter, and of the folks that were purchasing the iPhone 6, not the 6 Plus. They said over a third of them were Android owners previously, and I mean that's a pretty significant number when you're selling 10 million plus devices a quarter easily. I think this is in response to seeing how well the 6 and the 6 Plus has been received. Apple basically leveraging their brand to say, hey, listen, your Android phone can go away, but your content can at least come with you.
Well, and to Google's credit, they've made that easier too, because for people that live in a Google world, you can still have just as seamless an experience on iOS as you can on Android. So if you're a Google user, you're really not losing anything using one platform over the other.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'll let you guys have the last word on that. This is one thing that I was trying again with Reflector so you could see it on screen, but the new iCloud Drive app is something that I find interesting, although Apple has kind of a mixed bag when it comes to online services and stuff. But here's what the app looks like, and it looks similar to a Dropbox or whatever. What's interesting is I discovered that you can run this on Windows if you install a client on Windows, so you can actually sync stuff between Windows and Mac using iCloud Drive. But I think probably the most interesting thing is, with photos from Android, they're offering free storage, whereas, I've got 200 gigabytes on my iCloud Drive, but I have to pay for it every month. I can't remember what I'm paying. It's like maybe $5 a month, I think, or something. I don't remember, but I'm just wondering if Apple's just sort of overpriced for this. Is it really going to be something they're going to use? Just Apple fanboys are only going to use it because iCloud and everybody else is cheaper, basically.
Yeah, it's an interesting scenario because you've got two things to consider in that. First, you have the interface, which I think out of the ones that are available, like Dropbox, Google Drive, then iCloud, I think probably the best one, at least out of the ones I've used that I like the most, is Microsoft's OneDrive. And that seems to be the best implementation that I've seen out of any of them. But as far as pricing goes, I mean, Google pretty much has all of them beat as far as what you get for the amount of what you pay and the amount of storage you get in return.
Well, it depends on whether you're a Office 365 subscriber, which I am. If you're going to get Office 365 anyway because you want access to the Office apps, and that's now the cheapest and most cost-productive way, I think, to get it, because you get the full suite for just a few dollars a month. then you get unlimited storage. And so in that case, if you already have it, it's kind of got getting it for free, and it's unlimited. However, OneDrive, there's a few little things like they just don't do a very good job of syncing a template. If you use a special Word template, which I do for my sermon preparation, it's really hard to sync that. And I open it up on one computer, and suddenly it doesn't like what I made changes to on another one, so it reverts back to the default normal template, and that's annoying. And that's basically because I'm trying to sync it through OneNote, and it just keeps overriding it. And so I'm syncing it through not OneNote, but OneDrive. So that's an issue. But I think this is I applaud them for giving us file access to what used to not be available. So I think it's a positive, generally speaking. I just wish they would get in line with the pricing of the other guys. All right, let's move on. By now we're probably this plotting, boring, step-by-step approach, maybe not the most exciting thing. I think that's kind of what, iOS. Is there anything other than what we've discussed on iOS side that you guys are finding interesting?
Not really. I mean, the only other thing other than like El Capitan is the music aspect, and that's because I'm a big music junkie.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice to see them, one, broadening out just beyond iOS, and so having something on Windows and Android at least down the road. And as a Google Play Music user, the most interesting thing for me is the family plan, because right now I'm paying two separate accounts, one for myself and one for my wife. And my son wants his own, but I'm not giving him one right now because that's $30 a month just for music, which makes no sense. But it's just one of those things where I can spend $15 a month and still have access to everything, then that makes a lot more sense. So Apple is going to force a lot of companies' hands in that aspect.
Yeah, I don't think that's available on the iPad yet, as far as the beta. Is it even anywhere?
I don't think so. Not yet.
Yeah, I don't think so. What do you think, Antoine, about the music service?
When I listened to the Apple Music announcement, I first wanted to throw it away, kind of dismiss it, and then I realized something that literally since I got past my Nokia N9, that I very rarely have listened to music that's locally stored on my devices. I've very much been a Amazon Prime Music customer, and have thoroughly enjoyed it, even to the point of downloading playlists to be able to get those when I'm offline. To that end, I think Apple Radio, Apple Music, has probably a really smart bet route with Apple Music, more so than the streaming music route or the streaming create your own playlist route. It's pretty cool. I do think there are going to be a lot of sappy, crappy Christian radio stations that pop up on Apple Radio, Apple Music. Just call me crazy, but the folks that tend to get their stations first don't usually have the best music. And maybe that's my ear for independent artists. I do like that Apple is including independent, smaller artists in this Apple Music rollout. It reminds me very much of what Nokia was doing with mixed radio, but more radio, less mix.
Yeah, what do you think about the curation side of this? I think that's what sets it apart, isn't it? I mean, it's Beats, only amplified.
Yeah. I mean, curation is good, I mean, I think we all have our friends. We're looking at one of them, Kevin, on our podcast right now, who's a music head, who always seems to come around new music a little faster than everybody else, and tends to, give you arrangements or recommendations for music. I think we all have, that person or group of people that we trust that'll give us a very good listen, whether it's talk or music, if you will. Talk radio or music. And so I think that curation aspect is going to work really well. At the same time, we've already seen this, in regards to some of the accessories for iPhone and other, consumer electronics, it becomes its own echo chamber. I kind of feel like, a lot of mainstream music and ABC and Disney all sounds the same, and so I hope that the curation doesn't go down that line, that we start really hearing the same sound, the same pitch, the same Taylor Swift-like artist always being quote unquote number one. That I'd like to see there be some more creativity, some more things brought to the front than just what, if you will, a mainstream audience would be okay with hearing.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like curation is one thing, but I think the bigger thing that most of these companies aren't thinking about is discoverability. Help me find that new artist and new sound that I haven't heard yet that's different than what I'm used to, but I might still like. That's the one aspect that a lot of these companies aren't really hitting. But I think, on the one hand, Spotify is getting there, but people like Apple, Google, and some of the other ones still have a way to catch up.
Well, I'm not a music guy at all. I mean, I sparingly listen to music, so I'm not really the person to get excited about this. So it was going to be a long shot to get me excited no matter what they did. However, I think the $15 price point for the family plan is probably the most disruptive part of this. But you know what? Within months, everyone else will do it, and so their advantage will be gone, I think.
Yep.
It's interesting that Apple is going to be the price leader, until Spotify and Pandora and Google Play, and if Xbox cares about music, Xbox Music will jump in. I actually think Xbox Music is the best of the services, but no one knows it exists hardly. But of all the ones, I got it for free, and so I installed it. But it's great. I mean, it's excellent, but no one even knows it exists. And again, my family, my wife and I share the same account and so she doesn't even know that Apple has streaming music. I told her she was opening it. She said I couldn't find it on the Google Play thing. There's some songs she wanted to play for her kids at school. She said I couldn't find it on the Google Play thing. I said, well, did you look in Apple Music? Well, I didn't buy it. We don't have it, do we? I said, well, you can. They have a streaming thing in there. You might be able to find a station that's good for kids' music. Oh, she didn't even know that existed. And lives next to wakes up next to a technology geek every day, so maybe it'll be the attention paid to it is enough for Apple to get some people interested. But if you're on Android and iPhone and you can pay $15 and everybody in the family gets it, that's actually pretty cool and has me interested. I will tell you about one thing. I just got my Amazon Echo. This thing is awesome. We'll talk about that later. But it sounds pretty decent, and it's nice to be able to say, Alexa, play some jazz music or whatever I tell it to, and it's pretty nice. Well, let's jump over. Go ahead, what?
I want Amazon Echo in my car.
Just for the music part of it, or for everything?
No, for everything. I mean, my girlfriend says I live in my car, and she's kind of right. I spend probably.
You do live in your car.
I probably spend way too much time in my car, but honestly, the ability to use or search Amazon while I'm driving around is honestly a killer feature for me. I get enough product questions, or I'm looking for a particular tool, or just wanting to stream from my Amazon library. That the Echo has seemed like a really, really interesting product. I haven't put my hands on it yet, but I'm interested to hear what you got to say about it. And should we see Echoes in the Sanctuary, Kevin?
No, I don't see that being a valuable tool. Although it'd be neat if you could say play the latest Casting Crowns song and have everybody sing to it, maybe. But
well, and that's exactly what I was thinking. I've been around and been a part of some smaller churches that don't have a music team, if you will, and the iPod is their worship team. But would the Echo really work in something like that?
No, because there's no audio out feature on it, and the sound in it isn't good enough. Unless you'll have, just it's good in a small room like my bedroom where I've got it right now.
Oh, okay.
But it's not, or I could put it in my living room or your den or kitchen or something like that. But in an auditorium that seats 50 people even, they'd all be going, "Hey, I can't hear that." So but for this cylinder that it is, and here this thing is, let's see, I guess what I would compare it to, it's like 2 soda cans stacked on top of each other and maybe 1.5 times as thick. And so that's about how big it is. You plug it in, you set it up with either an Android phone or a Kindle Fire or Fire HDX or something like that, Fire HD tablet, and you just search for stuff with your voice, and it finds most things. I couldn't remember what time the game was on last night, so I just searched when is the next NBA Finals game, and it tells you exactly when it is and where it is. Just to test it, I said, "Who's the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers?" And it told me who the last 3 were. And then I said, "How tall is Aaron Rodgers?" And it told me he's, I think, 6'3" is what it said, or something like that. Anyway, so it has lots of information, and you say, "Alexa, wake me up at." See, now if someone else has one, I just woke up their thing, because you wake it up by using that word, and then tell it, "Wake me up at 8 o'clock in the morning," or "Wake me up at 7:30," or whatever, and it wakes you up and sets an alarm for that time, and it won't repeat it, so you don't get awakened every day. Or you can tell it to say, "Wake me up every day at 7 a.m." and it will, and it's really nice. And then you go onto the app on your phone, and the app tells you all that you had searched, and so then you can do even deeper searches through the app on your phone. And so and it does have some decent audio. I was actually impressed.
Yeah, one of the nice things too, because my coworker has one, is he listens to a lot of audiobooks. So he uses Audible to start playing on the Echo, and then wherever he stops, he can pick it up on his device and open up the Kindle app, and it'll go to that location in the book, so he can pick up where he left off.
Yeah, if you've got both the audiobook and the Kindle version of it, that's another awesome feature of it. I think it's great. Here's the problem: it's sold by Amazon instead of Google or Apple, and so it's just not going to be as ubiquitous. But I mean, if they put some marketing behind this thing, I think they've really got something here. Here's the thing: I ordered it like forever ago and forgot about it, and then got an email saying, "Your card's going to get charged $100 this week." And I was like, "Whoa, okay, yeah, I'm ready." So I'm getting some echo in there. Speaking of the echo, if someone's maybe suddenly their audio is coming through on their side. All right, well, we just have a few minutes left. Let's talk about El Capitan here, and I accidentally blew up. The battery life for graphically intensive programs, that might be useful and interesting. We have already talked about Spotlight Search on the iOS side, and they're bringing some of that to the El Capitan. And I like the fact that you'll be able to search for things like, show me the documents I've worked on in the last week, and it will find those things. Search for more. Someone's got an echo on there, so I don't know who that is. If there's anybody did any of you guys suddenly change something with your audio? Yeah, that fixed it, Antoine. When you muted, you were the culprit. I'm just going through these real quick, and then we'll talk about it after that. The shadow cursor thing was cool. If you don't know what that is, you shake your cursor and it makes it bigger when you first wake up. Gestures in mail, catch up to other apps. The new Snap feature that they have on the iOS, they're bringing it to OS 10 as well. Mission control. Do either of you ever use a Mac? No. So I was going to ask if you ever use Mission Control, but if you don't use a Mac,
Rich for my blood.
Yeah, the Mission Control is nice. This would be nice if Wes and and Rick were here. I don't use Mission Control ever. I don't know if I'll start using it because of that, but they've given you some better features than that. I think El Capitan is mostly just a stability improvement, and the metal feature, which is going to give it better graphical tools for gamers, yes, but more interestingly for Photoshop and
Yeah,
Adobe.
my coworker is really looking forward to that because he's doing a lot of video rendering these days in After Effects, and so he's really looking forward to these improvements. Instead of having to wait all day to render a video, he can do it much faster now.
What I'm hoping to see is one of the big complaints that all the Bible apps run fairly quickly except for one. And that one, Logos, is incredibly video and graphically intensive, and so I'm hoping that they can somehow take advantage of this. I don't see that happening. They struggle to keep up, it seems, with things. So I don't know if that'll happen. But and I won't ask you to Antoine to La Rosa rather comment on that because that might seem like you bashing the other guy when you work for the competition. But Antoine, what do you think?
I would sound just as bad as La Rosa in this case.
Go for it.
There's no excuse for software to be bloated. And so, the fact that Apple is solving it on their end is great. Windows did it, and for 10, they're solved a lot of those bloat issues. But there's really no excuse for bloated software that runs slow, especially when the folks that need your software, your target audience, really needs speed and reliability at the top of the product's aim. So it'd be good to see Logos and step it up. And I'd probably be afraid for all of you guys who are using Accordance because they're already fast as all crap. So they'll probably burn your processors a little bit more going forward.
Yeah, I don't know that would, if any of the other ones would really benefit from it too much because they're not so graphically intense. It's the way that Logos draws the program interface on the screen that takes so much power to do that. And so I hope that they can figure out some way to take advantage of this. But there may not be a way for them. The way their program is.
That's one thing that
not be a way. What's that?
And that's one thing that we as Bible software companies need to keep in mind too, is that we're dealing with people who don't necessarily always have a lot of money to spend, and we want them to spend their money with us. So we shouldn't necessarily be forcing their hand to always have to buy the latest hardware to run our software.
Yeah. Yeah, and this will be a latest hardware kind of thing, I think. I don't know. Well, maybe not. No, it might not. Recent things will be able to run OS 10. This seems to me more something, processing of visuals than drawing them on the screen. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I'm not a tech gadget geek enough to know. I like the tools and the hardware, but I don't know about the underpinnings of things like graphical displays and that sort of thing. Well, I don't know if this is the most exciting way for us to discuss this, but going forward, do you see? It feels like both companies this time were just trying to catch up with each other instead of really innovating new and great things. Am I right about that?
Well, I think we're getting to a point now where software is really waiting for hardware to catch up. So until we get some better hardware, like better battery life for things like wearables, and this really kind of the companies are waiting for that to catch up before they can really start innovating on the software side again.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the Apple Watch, and maybe that's because I couldn't care less about it. But
and that's just you.
No, I don't think. I think the world is showing that they don't care about smartwatches because none of them are selling.
No, they're selling.
No,
The, the, the,
none of
the,
that.
the thing is that the Apple Watch is not selling to the same people that the iPhone was selling to, which is really the demographics, the early demographics for this are, I mean, and Apple knew this. You know, $350 on the low bar is $50 above the instant purchase price. You know, for everybody. You know, $300 is like the magic number, and it's really interesting how and which models are selling. You know, I've got a lot of folks that have Christmas gifts coming up for Apple Watches because they can't get it right now, but they definitely say, you know what, if I'm going to go ahead and invest in the Apple Watch, I might as well not start at 350 and get something a little bit better. So they're looking, you know, next model up. It's pretty neat, and I think that by the time Apple Watch OS 2 comes out, it'll be worth their weight. It'll be worth their weight for what they get.
Well, I think that someone needs to come out with something that is a watch first, that just shows notifications and handles the fitness tracking, and that's it.
Well, you have that already. Withinged Watch Activate does that. He's got a Polar. I've got a Polar that does that. You know, does that really well. You know, Garmin's Vivo Smart and Vivo Active do that really well. You know, those things are out there. Is, you know, consumer awareness is a whole different can of beans. But fitness first wearables have been doing pretty well. You know, and wearables as a category, it's kind of like where we were with mobiles in 99, 2000, 2001. You've got a whole lot of folks out there fighting for the best.
On that watch, say that you're wearing right now, LaRosa, can you interact with it and the phone? Can you respond to a text message directly from it or anything like that? Or
Well, you can get notifications.
you just get the notification, but you, like if I texted you and said, hey, are you going to be on Theotek next week, you couldn't tap it and say yes. And then, okay. See, that's the kind of thing, a good watch could do that, in my opinion, but they're trying to do too much, I guess. Honestly, I would say get rid of all the apps. We don't need them. Just have these, 5 or 6 things that you can do great and make it cheap.
You mean like a Pebble?
Well, see, no, Pebble's even too complicated. For what I'm talking about?
Yeah, also, I mean, the Pebble Time would do exactly what you're saying, you know. It's you'd have your simple replies. It has, built-in, the basic things that's needed, 6-7 days of battery life. It sounds like that would hit that kind of checkbox.
Yeah, but the cheap part isn't there. It's still over $200 for the one that looks halfway decent. So, I don't know, maybe it's not doable. I just, and I wear one. I wear a Moto 360. In my opinion, it's, the best Android wear of the Android wear that's currently available, but it's still kind of annoying half the time, and you got to spend a lot of time fixing it to make it less than annoying. So. Yeah, okay. Well, if we're bored with it, shouldn't be the people watching are, so we'll let it go with that. Guys, this has been good. I hope that it's been interesting to those of you who are watching. And next week, we're hoping that we'll be talking about using using video for your church in different areas. And we'll have someone, Wes Allen, who's just a real video guru. He's into that and does that for his denomination. So I hope we'll be able to get that to work. Wes has been unable to be with us because of ministry and life for the last couple of weeks, but hopefully he'll be able to join us and talk about this. But thanks for watching. I hope that you'll subscribe. I hope that you will. I also hope that you'll be interested in looking over at Theotek.com on some of the things that we've had going on. KevinPurcell.org. I'm also posting stuff on a regular basis about church and Bible technology, so take a look at that. Make certain that you follow the Mobile Ministry Magazine and Urban Scholar, and get LaRosa's book, Raw Material. How's that going, LaRosa?
It's going. It's out there, so people can buy it.
Well, I recommend it. I wholeheartedly do so. All right. Well, I think we'll sign off and call it a day. Thanks for watching. God bless you all. We'll see you later.